Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes, and I have some notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice or support it by visiting patreon.com/IHaveSomeNotes. How about that heat?
Ugh,
Yeah, we're kind of in the middle of two heat waves at the moment.
sucks.
We just came off of a big heat wave. We're about to go into another heat wave, 30 plus
one's-
degree temperatures.
This one's even longer.
Yeah, it's not as hot, but longer.
Ugh,
And if anything, I would actually say that's almost worse.
it is. I 100% think that's worse.
I'd prefer to get like a big hot and then have it done with,
Yes.
than have it just linger.
Yeah. I can endure it for a day or
Yeah.
two. We're going into more than a week, and it's going to kill me. I am not built for this hot weather.
No, as we've mentioned multiple times, we're a bunch of pale Canadians.
Yeah. I'm a prairie
Acclimatized,
kid.
yeah, acclimatized to cold winters and like mild summers. These increasingly hot summers we're not used to that.
Mhm. This is one of the extreme ends that I complain about.
Yeah.
I complain about the extreme cold and the extreme heat. This is the extreme heat that I complain about.
Yeah, I've famously said like 25 degrees with a light breeze, perfect day.
Yeah, that's a lovely day.
35 degrees, too hot.
Too hot.
Too hot.
So hot.
Something to look forward to. Hooray!
We'll survive.
Yeah, we got a couple days of rain, which helped cool things down a bit, but
Oh, I've
we're
never
going
been more
into-
thankful for a little rainstorm than the one we had the other night.
yeah, we're going into a bit of a stretch, though, and it's going to be a hot one. So we'll see you on the other side of it, I hope.
I hope.
Yeah.
I don't expire or evaporate.
In the meantime, we've, of course, caught up on our novel, and we should do a brief recap of our previous chapter, chapter 27,
Yes.
before we dive into some events in which the girls realize that clearly the only person who could have done this crime, all the arrows are pointing at, is very obviously the nightmare Van Doren. And so they're going to have to head to the downtown mayoral offices to deal with him. So they wrangle up a car, and they pack their bags, and they get their stuff ready to go, and they head down to the mayor office and open the door to Van Doren's office, which is where we find ourselves in chapter 28 of The Undetectables by Courtney Smyth. So obviously it's not Van Doren.
Obviously.
I mean, Van Doren is there when they open the door,
Yes?
but he's definitely not the killer
No.
because he has been murdered.
Very.
Yeah, shockingly and horrifically, much more so than the other victims of the Whistler.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. So that leaves the girls momentarily a little surprised because this was not the climactic showdown they were expecting with him,
Yes, exactly.
to find him murdered.
Gruesomely, yeah.
And that's when the penny finally drops for Mallory.
Oh, thank God.
That the person who, like, 3 chapters into the book, I jokingly offered up as a possible suspect, is in fact the Whistler.
Yep.
Jacob.
Yep.
They do not say his name out loud because they're worried they might be scried upon.
Mm-hmm. I feel at this point
Yeah.
they don't have to.
No, they
say
don't
his
have
name.
to. They recognize he is a person who works out of the mayoral offices, who hired them initially, who's been stringing them along this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and had every opportunity to do so and went completely unnoticed by them.
Yep.
Jacob.
You figured it out early, and you are very smug about it.
This is not to say that this was a bad twist.
No, not
Just
at all.
like I like being able to piece together the clues and come to a conclusion at the same time as the detectives. I was a little ahead of the detectives this time, but that's because I was picking up what Courtney Smyth was laying down.
Yeah.
In a way that Mallory and Diana and Cornelia just weren't.
Yeah.
Partly because, and you hit the nail on the head last chapter with this, they had a confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
The evidence was landing next to Van Doren, but they are so predisposed to consider him a villain that they just assumed that it was Van Doren it was pointing at.
Yes.
And not the person standing behind him in the shadows.
Correct. I want to talk a little bit about how this chapter opens.
Sure.
We are now counting down the hours and the minutes to Samhain.
Yeah.
Right? So the clock is ticking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that lovely little bit of tension being thrown in. And the chapter opens with several paragraphs about Van Doren and how horrible he was as a person.
But that he wasn't a killer.
And that it ends with, he wasn't a serial killer, because the girls walk in on this, like, gruesome,
tableau.
Yeah, this gruesome murder scene.
I also wanted to point out that the first couple paragraphs of this chapter are basically a new perimortem.
Kind of, but he doesn't get his own at this point.
No.
We're too far in.
Well, and in fairness, he does not die in the same way.
Also true. So it's similar, right? The carvings were there.
Yeah.
His heart is missing. Gross. But this one was done in person.
Yeah.
And I think that is significant.
There are two ways to read that in my mind. The first is that it was personal.
That's what it feels like.
Jacob wanted to be there to do it personally because he has beef with Van Doren, which possibly legit.
Again, based on our opening paragraph about how terrible Van Doren was.
Yeah, the other possibility is that time is ticking, and he did not have time to go all whistle magic on him and just had to get the job done.
Maybe?
He needed another victim. Van Doren was there. He killed Van Doren.
Yeah. It's also possible that there's something in the ritual that required, like, gross, a fresh heart.
Maybe, I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, it's possible. All three, perfectly possible. It feels personal.
It does feel personal.
Right? It feels like this one was personal. He just couldn't stand Van Doren being the crooked politician that he was. Because that slots better into the bigger picture, right? That you and I have talked about before.
Yeah.
So that's why it feels like that to me. Like, the whole, this is justice, this is making things right. Van Doren clearly fits into the everything wrong with the world
with
category.
Society, yeah.
And so that needed to be fixed / eliminated.
Yeah,
right?
No, that makes sense. Because again, I really do get the sense that Jacob feels remorse for some of the murders, but also is justifying them as necessary evils. Because, I mean, he seemed genuinely torn up about the girls being sad about Ben. He went to Beckett's funeral, and I recall he was crying there. Like, I do get the sense that that's not necessarily for show, that there is genuine, like, empathy there, but that he's obviously, like, cracked. And and there's a lot of, like, compartmentalization going on here. And he feels very justified in what he's doing, even if, again, he recognizes that it's a bad thing.
I'm so sorry that I have to kill you, but I have to kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So our girls crime scene it.
Yes.
Right?
It is a crime scene. And more importantly, like, they recognize that they had the wrong guy. They need to find a clue right now if they're going to track down the right guy.
Yeah, because it's obviously not Van Doren. He's dead.
Yeah. So they snap some photos. They check everything out, and they basically start looking for a secret passage.
Basically. This is what I wrote in my notes. The girls go through and crime scene, in air quotes, crime scene the office under a shh spell.
Yes, they are very quiet about it, too, because they recognize that Jacob could be lurking anywhere. And that they are in danger, and more importantly, Cornelia's in danger.
Yes.
Now, Mallory is not willing to give up Cornelia for dead. I had suggested last chapter that she, like, entertained the idea, but maybe I misread that, or maybe she's just come to the point now where she's like, no, Cornelia's definitely still alive.
Yeah, because I need a reason to keep going.
Not just that, though. She actually points out, like, the three of us have been a little coven of witches for years.
Yeah.
Long enough now that, like, we have a feel for one another. And I feel like we would sense if Cornelia was gone. And Diana doesn't refute that.
No, she doesn't.
I think Diana, on one hand, does feel like Mallory's maybe reaching. And Diana 100% is aware that Mallory's into Cornelia.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I feel like she doesn't refute it because she kind of is like, yeah, I kind of feel that too.
I think Mallory has a point.
Yeah.
I think she's probably right for outside narrative purposes, like, I also believe that Cornelia is alive because she is one of our protagonists.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Not because I think the witches feel it. And I think it's probably 60-40 that Mallory just needs Cornelia to be alive or she won't be able to function.
I mean, she pushes herself hard through this.
Yeah.
To the point where Diana actually, when they find the secret panel at the back of the bookshelf.
Diana has her, aha.
They have a little moment to like rally themselves before they go into danger. And Diana legitimately tells Mallory, hey, I'm proud of you.
Yeah. Okay. So the secret passage that Diana finds is a stereotypical dark, spooky corridor.
Yeah.
So there is this, foreboding sense of doom, right? The atmosphere in there is terribly Halloween-y.
Well, I mean,
it's super spooky.
Not only is it a super spooky office, but it is also a super spooky office with a corpse in it.
It is a super spooky office in an abandoned part of town.
That is the scene of murder.
That is the scene of murder, and they are likely heading into some sort of terrible ritual, right? Like, It's very, very spooky. And Diana has one of those, I'm going to die, so truth bombs, here they come.
Yeah.
Right?
She actually even says, like, just in case we die, I feel like there's something that needs to be said.
If we survive this, I think the phrase she uses, she asks Mallory to stop swallowing herself.
Yes.
And that's a very apt way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think. In my notes, I was like, this made me go, yes, Mallory, stop it. Because it goes hand in hand with what we've been saying about Mallory all along. She's just sitting around wallowing and feeling sorry for herself, trying to behave like nothing is wrong.
When she just needs to own that something is wrong and move on with her life.
Yes, exactly. And Diana sees it, and...
To be fair, Cornelia sees it.
I'm sure all of her friends actually see it.
Yeah.
It's just no one wants to say anything, because reasons. And the fact that she brought this up as, like, potentially her last moment kind of thing, clearly Diana's been holding on to this for a while.
Yeah. Well, and more importantly, she's using it as a rallying point for her.
Absolutely.
Because as I said, like, this is also her way of saying, like, I'm proud of you. I'm seeing what you're doing. I've seen that you're pushing yourself and you're being your best self right now. We need more of that. If you're going to be the leader of this team, you need to act like that all the time. And Mallory is like, as leader of the team, shouldn't I be the one giving the pep talks? And Diana's like, no. This time you needed a pep talk, and I'm giving it to you. And now let's go into the spooky corridor and maybe get killed. And that's basically the end of the chapter.
Yeah, that's all that happens. We are the roller coaster of our story's climax is still building. We're still climbing. Up we go.
Yeah, I think we're like tipping over the edge at this point.
Well, here's the thing I noticed though. I did a quick count because that's not spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
We have 9 chapters left to go.
Mm-hmm.
So either this is a really long, drawn-out story climax, or there's a whole bunch of aftermath.
It could be a little bit of both. My guess is that there is going to be like maybe a couple chapters of climax, but that there is going to be some fallout because obviously we're going to want to find out what happens to Racton after the Nightmare got murdered.
Yeah.
We're probably going to have maybe some denouement involving Theodore's murder.
I hope.
We might also get a little more with Detective O'Sullivan before the end and a little bit of wrap up there. So yeah, I feel like there's plenty of fallout after the events of this novel that our author might want to explore. It might not just be hey, we beat the Whistler and the end.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. My feeling is that there's going to be like, we're going to cut to like weeks later or something.
Yeah. If this is not your first book with us, you'll know I like everything wrapped up nice and tidy with taut little bows on them.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of loose things. There are a bunch of loose threads here that need to be tied up.
Yeah. Well, I am aware that there is a sequel book that has been announced. It might be out. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I know that there was a sequel book announced while we were reading this, actually. So the timing was interesting. I'm under the impression that this one is largely standalone. So my feeling is that everything should get wrapped up.
I hope. I don't always get that in a book because sometimes the author will purposely leave something loose and dangly. And I'm like, no, tie it all up. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to tie up this particular episode, I think.
Yeah.
And you'll want to read up on what may be a very exciting chapter 29 for next week. In the meantime, of course, as always, you can give us a little rating and review on your podcatcher of choice.
Because we love and appreciate that kind of stuff.
We do. You can also send us missives via social media.
Oh my goodness. Pick your poison. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, and Goodreads. We are at the Read Along if you need an at. Otherwise, we're just the Read Along.
What also has an at? An email address.
Ha! Yes, you can send us an email at thereadalong@gmail.com.
And with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
It's a shushy spell. Shh.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.